December 2023, and a jet plane flies overhead on its way from Dusseldorf in Germany to Chicago Airport in the United States. And if you look over here, you can also see the trail of several of them, because we are en route between the airports of Northern Europe, except France and Britain, but particularly Germany and Holland, en route to North America, not to Mexico, but all north of there, including Atlanta and sometimes San Francisco, fly directly over this Irish farm. Away off in the distance, I can see like 18, 19 planes in the morning time here. Now, recently we had Mary Robinson at the COP28 summit in sunny, hot Dubai. It's cold here this morning, and not too cold. It's about 9 degrees, I'd say. You could stand out talking without being cold, and it's totally calm. You can see there from the trees that there's no wind. And if you look at one of the 5 turbines in Rara wind farm, there's one stopped. This one is producing nothing. They just idle them like that. It's not producing anything. If you're in there between it's stopped. The other one over just going round. This wind farm is nothing at all at the minute. Now, this is the more southerly turbine, and it's 900 metres from number 1 in the north, and it should be 900 metres between those 2 turbines. And that's why some of them are stopped. A wind farm should have approximately 3/4 at least of a kilometre between each turbine. Now, a look at EirGrid Smart dashboard this morning shows that they're giving renewable energy at the minute at 1300 megawatts, of which about 1000 would be wind. So there may be wind blowing in Kerry or in Donegal or maybe Mayo. I don't know. It's certainly not doing it here. Now, you can't probably pick it up on this mobile smartphone, but there's a pronounced howl from these turbines. And incidentally, as I look across here, 2 more huge jetliners have come on the scene heading off to America. Now, remember that in the COP26 they all flew in with private jets, except those who were bound in the snow in southern Europe and in Germany, but the rest of them flew in these jets. And if you look on Plane Tracker or Plane Finder, you're not looking for a flight now. If you look at it carefully, you can get in, and it's great service. You can see every single airplane in the sky, every single airplane. There may be some military ones which are not shown, but all commercial airliners are shown, even in Russia and even in Korea and all of that, and even in China, because it's made available. It's no big deal. But you can see the sheer numbers of them and the sheer fuel requirement of them. They usually measure it in US gallons, and up to 300 US gallons even for the smallest plane. So they're burning fuel at an unbelievable rate, yet there's no remarks passed of this. Not only that, current electricity consumption in the Republic of Ireland is 5,700, when before the data centres was built, it would now be about 4,600. So there's roughly 1,000 megawatts of data centres installed in Ireland, gobbling up our energy and gobbling up our CO2 emissions. So at the expense of the farmer. So Mary Robinson never made any mention whatsoever of that fact, of any of these facts. She harped on to Al Jaber, the Dubai United Arab Emirates man, how he needs to cut oil production. She had absolutely no suggestion how to do it except by renewables. So, if renewables are the answer, she didn't explain what happens when the wind doesn't blow, and she didn't explain what happens when the sun doesn't shine, and at night in particular, and she didn't explain how wind energy is actually incorporated into the machine, which is the grid. And the answer to that is that it's not. About 38% of the grid must always be fossil fuel. No wind intermittent form of electricity is reliable enough to let it run the grid. Not one island community anywhere in the world is run with these sort of turbines. Not one. Why don't they build one up on an island off the coast of Donegal where there's plenty of wind and try and run a few houses or run something as a test? They don't do it because they know the whole thing is one massive cheat, one massive fraud. Now, the thing about it is, when you get a good windy day, you certainly could cut back on some of the fossil fuel electricity if you know it's going to continue windy. But if you cut back too much and the wind dies down, you're going to have blackouts. And they're actually trying to manage this and counting and planning for this scenario. Now, the measure of what wind turbines produce has never been properly assessed, but Keys de Puer and another study in America called the Bentech studies counted the amount of fuel they use. They didn't count the fuel used in the manufacture or the cement or concrete, and they counted that over a year they'd save about 4% of their own capacity, but that's only at reasonable levels. If they go ahead with all the onshore wind and offshore wind as well that they plan, none of this can be used when there's wind blowing, and when there's no wind blowing, they have to try and make a profit. So the only way they can do that is drive the price up. And I see there in the Sunday Business Post yesterday, the auctions for offshore wind in Ireland are setting the price at €86 per megawatt hour. And remember, in England, that was the same situation they offered them, and they wouldn't build the wind farms. So Richie Sunak's government gave them the highest oil price also, so they could choose between the highest oil price or the going rate of about €86 per megawatt hour, or the equivalent in the UK. Here in Ireland, they haven't done that yet because they probably realise if they allow the new wind turbines, and these wind turbines here, by the way, they receive the price of the fossil fuel, not the price of the guaranteed price once the fossil fuel price is high. So these are dependent on high fossil fuel prices to make any money at all. And in the case of the offshore wind farms, they are dependent on a price which links it to the high fossil fuel price. Moreover, if the price of fossil fuel comes down due to a worldwide recession or depression, which looks to be on the cards because people are not using oil, coal and gas, then these people will be bankrupt, and they'll be back to government again to keep gouging into people's electricity bill, so that we have ridiculous scenarios where people who set up little restaurants in country towns found that after the first billing period of 2 months, the bill for electricity was €30,000. Airgrid or neither ESB or any of them, they don't publish how much they're losing through non-payment. There is huge non-payment. The state had to bail out electricity bills with grants to people. I even got it on my home place as well, and but that's gone now. So this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. At the very best, a current wind energy in Ireland is relieving the need for coal, oil and gas by about 4 to 5% over a full year. That does not include the fact that these are using electricity. They don't give the stated amount, but I reckon myself that the amount they're using about 7% of their capacity. Some studies have shown they're using 20% of the capacity. The other point is, with low income, this wind farm has to be decommissioned after 25 years. Most of them have planning permission only for 25 years. They're trying to extend that at the minute, but the turbines themselves become obsolete obsolete very quick. They are not making money, so they keep offering bigger and bigger turbines. And so the little ones are regarded as too small, which is a lie, because it doesn't matter what size they are. It's the area of land swept by the wind that creates the energy. It's not so much the actual height and size of the turbines. But the investors still think it is, and they still think, oh, there's the greatest new thing in town from the snake oil salesman, and they will still apparently pump their hard-earned money into this stuff. Meanwhile, Mary Robinson back in Dubai craved the Arabs to stop supplying oil to the rest of the world, while Ursula von der Leyen was over in these countries, and Yemen, or not Yemen, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, begging for gas after Russia cut the supply and after the Americans cut the Nord Stream 2 gas supply into Germany. Now, so you had Mary Robinson begging the Al Jaber, the Arab oil producer, magnate and political leader, you had her begging him, please stop producing this oil. And meanwhile, you had Ursula von der Leyen, the head woman in the EU, begging them to keep sending gas and oil and liquefied natural gas, which is almost the same as oil. So here you had two people proclaiming to be leaders in the world with two totally opposite objectives. And of course, Mr. Al Jaber told her, you're talking through your hat, woman. And needless to say, she still doesn't really get it. If this CO2 is such a threat, and that's another big if, well then Mary Robinson would need to go and get inventors to invent a way to produce a fuel that is not carbon based, to produce some method of supplying electricity. They haven't gone so far yet as to cut people off. They haven't gone so far yet to cut people off their electricity supply, because they know that in the next election that would be suicide to cut them off the electricity. And so they have taken a perfectly good electricity generating system, which was fit for purpose and lean, and which should have been used only to supply basic indigenous industries, not data centres from all over the world. But of course, data centres seem sexy to the like of these people. Oh, data centres, oh, they're swanky. Oh, they're nice. Oh, we'll go for them. And they didn't give two hoots about the fact that they were going to push in data centres and push out farmers and other people. We have Tara mines only 20 miles from where I'm standing here, closed due to this, and many more to come. We have an economic recession in Germany of monumental proportions, and the implications for the UK and other places are quite big. We have 3 British Prime Ministers in the last while, all changed and swapped, and they can't manage even the basics. You have mayhem in post-Brexit Britain due to the fact that they all believe we're all going to fry next week, and that this is the answer, and nothing at all put into the generating of jobs in engineering, in industry, or farming, or any other thing. And this slide will either continue until people are physically eating out of dustbins, living in caves with no electricity, no fuel or anything, or there will be an electoral kickback. The people at the polling stations will eventually realise that they have been made fools of, and they will punish these people at the polls and let in some type of realists into it. And this is beginning to happen all over the world. How we became ruled by such a crowd of ignoramuses, people with arts degrees, the like of Mary Robinson, nodding her head around the place about this international human rights and everything else, begging the Arabs to cut the supply to women in Africa. This is Manana Herden. Cut the supply to China, cripple the Chinese economy, cripple the Russian economy, cripple everybody, and give the energy, all the oil and gas to America and Europe for free, so that they can cheat and try to claim that they're going to end its use in a few years' time. I mean, the sheer hypocrisy of this and the sheer ignorance knows no bounds. So that's it, folks. You can see this is Mary Robinson's renewable energy, and I see another plane has appeared in the sky. And that's, since I started making this video, that's about 7 I see leaving trails, and they're mostly going from Europe to America, but I saw one a while ago going from America back to Britain on the way. So I hope I've made that quite clear. I go to a lot of trouble to explain this. These things don't work. They're highly destructive and highly expensive, and will eventually have to be ripped out of the ground and got rid of for many reasons. There has to be, and there is indeed, a much better way. It's unbelievable that this beautiful landscape has been destroyed here just to lure in Facebook and Google and all these ones that won't even give the Irish government the information they hold. They won't even give them. I see there that it's Google has used Micheál Martin's name to promote some advertisement, and he's gone into court to make them say who the person that uses his name is. And he's pushing for them, and the Irish people have to comply with the rules on disclosure. And these people can hold it back and refuse to give it to him and force him to go through the courts, and they'll probably push him the whole way right up. It'll take years for him to find out who is actually using his name. This is the ignorance of our government, and people are going to have to realise you cannot support any of the established political parties, including Sinn Féin, who just want to fool you that there's something different and get into power and continue the same for the rest of our lives effectively. That's the plan. That's what the plan is. And we'll see you back for something else soon. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down here on a sunny cold morning here. We'll see you back. Good luck. Bye. Thank you.